Hello students, and welcome to Lesson 4, Day 2. We remember the last lesson we learned all about our C major chord. Well, in this part we're going to learn about the C major chord, and we're going to learn about another chord called the G major chord. You may also remember that we learned a little special trick with our C major chord. Remember this hand over hand? And this hand goes over, or this hand can go over that way. I've got the camera angle so that we're just looking at a very specific part of the piano because we're going to learn a new chord. But we learned that hand over hand trick. Well, today we're going to learn a little bit of a different trick called the rolled chord, and we're going to learn march style chords, okay? So a lot to learn, a new chord and two new styles of playing those chords. These are going to be very, very useful in our next couple lessons when we focus on learning the song, "Oh When the Saints Go Marching In." This is going to be our first song with right hand and left hand chords at the same time. We've done right hand and left hand single notes, but now we're going to get to play chords in the left hand. And don't forget that a chord is basically a group of notes. So to review, here is your C chord, played by my left hand. Here's middle C. Here's the low C. Remember, low C is down here. We're going to mainly play chords in this course in our left hand. So C chord is C, E, and G. Remember, that's also called the C major chord because it sounds happy or majestic or bright or upbeat. There's our C major chord. Now, we're going to learn another chord. Okay? We've got our 5 on C, our 4 on D, our 3 on E, our 2 on F, and our 1 on G. Now watch this. I'm going to move into my new chord very slowly. Did you see what I did? I now have my 1 still on G, my 3 is now on D, and my 5 is on the low B. This is called the G major chord. Let me play it one more time. Here's the C major chord. Here's the G major chord. Okay? Here's how to practice this in slow motion if you're having trouble. Just do it in 2 logical steps. Step 1, move the 5 finger over to B. Step 2, move the 3 finger over to D. And then play. Common mistakes I see when people do this. People want to pick up the whole hand and move it. It's not necessary to do that. Keep this one finger, this G, this one finger glued to G. Pretend it's just totally glued there. So we're here, and then we move. This is what you want to do. Practice moving back and forth. Here's C chord, G chord, C chord, G chord, and back to C chord. Your ultimate goal should be to get to the point where you can move between these 2 chords and not even look at your hands. That's your goal. It's going to take a while, but it can be done. Remember, both of these chords are major. They both sound bright and happy. This one's ordered a little bit differently. We're going to get into that later as we get into a little bit more advanced chord theory. Okay, now, as soon as you master this, I want you to look at 2 other things in terms of chords. One is called the rolled chord. We've talked about the fact that we can play chords using different styles. We learned the hand over hand technique last time. Now let's look at this, the rolled chord. Watch this. Here's my C major chord rolled. Again. Did you see what I did? I held this one down, then played this one, then played this one. So with a rolled chord, you're going note by note by note. You can roll it fast, you can roll it slow. It doesn't really matter. Can you do this with your new chord? You sure can. Watch this. There's your G major chord rolled, back to C major. A question people always ask is, can you roll from the top down? Yes, you can, but I will tell you that that is a lot rarer. In most music, you're going to roll from the bottom up, probably about 100 times to 1 that you're going to roll from the top down. So for now, let's just do bottom up rolls. And if you'd like to practice this with your right hand, you're welcome to do it. But it's going to be a lot more useful in your left hand. Final thing we'd like to talk about is what I call the march style chords. And this is going to be very useful in our upcoming song, "Oh When the Saints Go Marching In," because "Oh When the Saints Go Marching In" is kind of a march after all. So let's listen to this. Here's C major chord march style. You could certainly tap your toes to that. You could march or walk around in that. If you've ever been in marching band, you probably heard something like that before. Now what am I doing? All I'm doing is taking my C chord, dividing it up. I'm first playing the C, and then I'm playing E, G, E, G, E, G. So. Now a march is pretty much always in 4/4 time. So let's think about the beat. Here's beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds real nice. Can we do this with our other chord? Of course we can. Let's move our pinky down here, our 5 finger on B, our 3 finger on D. Let's do this. Let's go B first, and then D and G at the same time. There's our G major chord, march style. Let's have some fun. Let's see if we can go back and forth. Here's C major chord, G. Let's have some more fun. Do you think that we could alternate between playing a rolled style and a march style? We sure could. Watch this. Or. So you see, the more we learned about chords and different styles of playing chords, you have more and more variety in your music. You're going to find that in a lot of forms of music, you're free to do what you want with the chords. You're free to play them in whatever style you want. You're only limited by your imagination and by your own sense of taste. Now let me address 2 questions right here that always comes up. First of all, some people ask, is it possible to play your G chord with your 5 on your B, your 4 on your D, and your 1 on your G? Yes, it is, but here's the problem. Do you see this stretch here? That's a very, very painful and uncomfortable stretch. Now, I've been playing piano for 20 years. I can do that. It's not going to hurt my hand. I'd rather you, if you're a beginner, not do that. It's going to be much easier to just move both fingers down, your 3 on D and your 5 on B. The other question I get is, if this one is called C major chord and C's on the bottom, then why isn't this one called B chord when B is on the bottom? We're going to get into that a bit later, I promise you, as we get through chord theory. For now, just know that this is the G chord, even though it has B on the bottom for now. Okay? So, we'd like you to practice the C chord, the G chord, and the 2 different styles of playing the chord. The rolled, or here's the G chord rolled, and of course the march. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So get these chord styles down, and in the next lesson we're going to start hitting our first big song, "Oh When the Saints Go Marching In."